Hey Alex, it's everyone, and welcome to the Marvel Snap Decks of the Week, the weekly series where I showcase the top 10 best decks in Marvel Snap. And if you'd like to support the content, consider hitting the like button. It's free, and it helps tremendously with the YouTube algorithm. Now, this week is a little different. We just had an OTA, so we only have a couple days of untapped-based statistics to go off of, post-infinite, of course. So we're going to be focusing on the first three decks, which are kind of like good decks that have been performing exceptionally well. They do have lower sample sizes, but these have been traditional, very strong decks that have been relatively unimpacted by the OTA that you can turn to. Now, the next 7 decks after that will be statistical decks from Untapped in ranked order from win rate for the last couple of days, okay? So a little bit of a different approach this week. So Surfer, if you're looking to play some Surfer, this current deck, according to Untapped, is running a 63% win rate, 0.54 cube rate, which is remarkable at 380 games played. So the actual like margin for game sample size is kind of small here, but all these cards are unimpacted from the recent changes, and so if you're looking to play a really good deck and you don't care about like what the meta shifts are doing right now, here's a great one, and it's actually fantastic. Like I've been playing a lot of this here. Copycat's been doing some heavy lifting, as is Red Guardian. Great options in the deck, and Gwenpool, Galacta, and Absorbing Man do work well with Zabu, of course, which gives you a pretty interesting kind of turn one play. The Zabu package taking over for the Killmonger Nova package, which tends to be much more popular in some of the other buff versions with like Nakia and Okoye. But regardless, Surfer, very legit, very playable if you want to consider playing it in the current meta. And that's going to take us to Toxic at number 9. And Toxic is kind of like a mainstay, and Anti-Venom has truly been a great performing card in these shells as well. Valentina, I'm still not sold on, but statistics still indicate that Valentina represents a great opportunity to get some significant value, especially when you consider that Luke Cage is still making the deck despite the fact that it did receive a nerf a couple OTAs ago. US Agent still making the deck as well. This list is just good. It's just good. And once again, something like a Red Guardian does a tremendous amount of lifting. I found myself often holding Rogue, a little disappointed. This is statistically one of the strongest versions of the deck. If you want to cut Rogue and add something else, you most certainly can. There's going to be times where Rogue absolutely just like goes crazy, right? Of course, there's always those opportunities, but in my experience, Rogue sometimes felt a little light in the hand. So, perhaps consider replacing that with a card of your choice. But regardless, you can't argue the stats. 64% win rate, 0.69 cube rate across 200 games flat on Untapped. So a very good shell overall, doing wonderful work. And it's going to take us to our next deck, which, I mean, a lot of people aren't talking about Patriot at all. It's running a 58% win rate, 0.40 cube rate at approximately 200 games played. Once again, Luke Cage is making this deck. It is running a Doom 2099 shell, so you do have like the Doom 2099. I like the Super Scroll in here as like a catch-all, which is pretty fun. I do kind of appreciate that. Now, this particular deck worked well when there was a lot of mirror matches with 2099, and so when I looked at this statistically, I'm like, it is still performing very well even with the Super Scroll. However, if you find yourself not getting mirror matches, or in this case of like what I said with Rogue, you're not getting a lot of value from the Rogue or other ongoings, you could consider cutting Super Scroll for something of value depending on what your collection is or what you feel like your pocket meta is experiencing. But overall, the core of the deck is working wonderfully, and you can't, the stats don't lie. And if you're looking to play some Patriot, this is a good opportunity for you to do so in a shell that's very flexible in how it can win games. You can win with Ultron, you can win with your Doctor Doom and Doom 2099s. A lot of options here, a great shell overall. That takes us to our top 10, or top 7 I should say, ranked from Untapped, 6,000 collection level and above, infinite only statistics since the OTA, and we're going to be ranking them based off of the win rate, and then of course using the cube rate as a secondary ranking characteristic. We have Ares Iron Mill. Now, Iron Mill has kind of made a comeback here, and this is essentially one of the decks that I was testing with Ares, and it was fun. It was very fun. This is a great deck to play. Like, it's a very active deck. I mean, not for your opponent because their deck's getting blown up, but for you, it's fun, and stuff's happening pretty much every single turn, from turn 1 Yondu to turn 2 Cable to turn 3, Red Guardian or Zemo or whatever you're doing, Gladiator. It's like something's always happening. There's a lot of dopamine playing this deck, and I think that's kind of fun. Ares performs pretty well here. It wasn't as clean as the other Ares decks we're going to be talking about, with Surtur specifically, but still very good. 55% win rate, 0.30 cube rate. Overall, a good deck that you can most certainly play and rank up with. But again, I do think there is better Ares deck, and this is exactly what I said in my Ares review, where it's like, Ares is good, and I did say that the Surtur shells were definitely better, and that does prove to true statistically. We go to number 6, and it's Agent Havoc at a 56% win rate. Now, the cube rate is surprisingly low at 0.28. That feels like an anomaly to me because I feel like this deck is super good. And I do recognize that it has a play pattern that people kind of got to get used to when they're playing it right. But honestly, I've been talking about this deck for weeks. This is such a good shell. And it's a creative shell too. Does it stand against the Surge stuff? Not as effectively, especially with the change to US Agent. US Agent's nerf does feel like impactful because of the amount of 4, 5s, and 6s that you are playing against in those Surge-based shells. And naturally, with the Cassandra Nova, great card against things like, the Erishams, which are gaining in popularity. Also, a great counterpiece against Ares because you pump their deck by 3 points on that duel there. But this does not duel well into Ares. That's the challenge, right? Like, everything's pretty small. At best, you Agent Venom, and then, okay, well, everything's just 9, I guess, right? And so it doesn't duel with Ares well, and Ares is very popular right now because, surprise, surprise, it's performing very good. And so that's what holds this deck back a little bit. So if Ares cools off, I bet you this one kind of increases in value. Now, this is currently the highest kind of win rate version of Bullseye currently running at a 56% win rate, 0.38 cube rate. The cube rate and the win rate have come down on the Bullseye decks. Not because the decks aren't good, but because I think that people they got the pattern. Like, they get it, right? Like, Bullseye's not catch you by surprise anymore, despite all the fast fours. You never know what's going on. I do like to see Grandmaster making a shell, and I think that Grandmaster was on the periphery of a lot of the Bullseye decks when Bullseye was first being kind of tested and stuff like that. I still think this is cool. I still think the Frigga Dokken and Frigga Bullseye stuff is more fun. I still think the Zola stuff is cool. You Zola the Dokken, and you get multiple shards and blow them all up with the Bullseye. That's cool too, but less consistent. This does have a little bit more consistency, and I do like it. And of course, it's cheaper because you don't have to deal with the Frigga tax, which, a lot of people don't have Frigga. And, you might have gotten Grandmaster by now because of the amount of times that it was in Spotlight Caches. But anyways, this is Bullseye at number 5. At number 4, we have Iron Wiccan. This has been a deck that's been floating around the meta. And honestly, since Iron Patriot came out, it's been clear that having very clear, consistent plays on individual turns is beneficial for the card. Quicksilver into Cable or into Hawkeye is cool because, you have this very consistent buildup. You go Quicksilver into Iron Patriot into Rocket and Groot or Glad, and, you're winning those trades very often, right? And then you also get the reward of, I won the trade-off on the Iron Patriot, also I get to play Wiccan. And that's why this deck feels so natural. The early curve out is so very natural. Now, the splash here is Fenris. Fenris is a really cool splash. It's obviously with something like a Gladiator, with a Shang-Chi. And at first I was like, man, do I even want to play Fenris like this? Because I was kind of high on Fenris, but at the same time, it was kind of awkward. Now, I take it back. Fenris has been such a cool flip card from time to time. The amount of damage I've done to my opponents on turn 6 with that really super late, literally the last action on the game is the Fenris activation. It's pretty neat. I actually do kind of like it. So Fenris has been carrying some weight here in a 57% win rate deck at a 0.35 cube rate. And that takes us to our top 3, and it's Erisham 2099. Erisham is legit. This version of Erisham right now is running Iron Patriot, believe it or not, which makes sense because you play Iron Patriot on turn 2, turn 3, then you can reach a little bit with that extra energy, and you're able to play the Galacta or whatever. Now, you're also taking advantage of the fact that you get the Doom 2099 out early, which kind of really starts to ramp up that board presence. You also close out with a Doom on turn 5, and then on turn 6 you can Goliath, or you can do whatever. You could Legion. You wouldn't want to. I think Goliath is generally a really nice closer on turn 6. I mean, not if you're receiving Goliath. Because I just said that, I'm gonna get Goliath over and over again on my next stream, and it's gonna be awful. I'm gonna cry, real tears. But honestly, Erisham 2099, this is a great deck. 58% win rate, 0.41 cube rate. Erisham is still good. I discussed this. I think it was on the Snapchat. Or was it on my OTA video where I said that I feel like Erisham's losing his identity a little bit. The card is still good, but I liked what he was before better from a way you played him. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Erisham. He feels like he's exactly it. He's still good, but his identity doesn't seem right. You know what I mean? I like the whole random draft element of Erisham better. I wish they leaned into it more. He's more balanced now, but I feel like he's less fun. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Erisham. I get the card's still good. I don't know. I just don't know. Going to number 2, I got a confession to make. Number 2 and number 1 are kind of the same deck. They are Ares Surtur decks, but different shells of it. So I'll show you quickly here. So we have the Arrow version of Surtur, which is running a 60% win rate and a 0.39 cube rate. You have Arrow in it. This is the one that I was playing. Now, this particular list will run Squirrel Girl in order to give the Cull Obsidian a little bit of extra opportunity to proc and a little more flexibility, which I do appreciate a little bit. And then we also have the top version, which is the Juggernaut version of Ares, which I thought was pretty neat too. Juggernaut does represent a pretty interesting play because it has the opportunity to like be very disruptive to Shan-Chis or Shadow Kings or anything that is looking to knock out or punch out your Surtur or, you know, your massive chonky boys on turn 6. Also, I should mention, this is one of the reasons why Fenris is so good right now, because you're literally Shan-Chi big chonky boys all the time. And so Fenris is kind of disproportionately benefiting from the amount of Surtur. But yeah, Surtur is unreal. 61% win rate on this deck, 0.45 on the number 1 Jug variant here. And I was playing Nico before too, so this is very similar to the list I was doing. I wasn't running Juggernaut though. That was a, you know, sensual splash that was added in. And this one here, running the Arrow with the Squirrel Girl. So I'm going to have both in there, and it's almost like a shared 1 and 2. I don't usually do this, but there's kind of no other deck that warranted being the top 2 spots. Like, the Ares Surtur shell is awesome. It's awesome. It's crushing it right now, and it's a good way to get your weekend missions done if you're looking to get it done. Look at this. Got some Iron Patriot. Got some Ares in there. Those weekend missions will be done in no time. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I sincerely appreciate each and every one of you. Your support means the world to me, and we'll see you on that next one.